What illnesses did your mom say that you had?
Asthma, epilepsy, hearing impaired, vision impaired, fed with a feeding tube, paralyzed from the waist down, slow, so retardation, and among other things. I just can't.
So we're back at it again. We're breaking down Gypsy Rose and everything that happened to her, along with Dee Dee and her Munchausen by proxy, right? So just wanted to replay that part so you could hear the list and litany of diagnoses that Dee Dee ended up giving Gypsy Rose, and that she got away with. She got away with all of this, and Gypsy Rose was being treated for a bunch of things that she did not have. The one thing that she did have when she was a baby, she had strabismus, which is like her eyes weren't aligned properly. Like, I don't want to say cockeyed, but that's really what people call it. That's like the way people refer to it without the medical terminology, right? And so that was it. But like, that's not even in the list that Gypsy's saying. But anyway, let's go ahead and get back in to this insanity that is Gypsy Rose's life.
Can't remember them.
Remember, we looked at all of this already before in the last episode. With, again, all the list of diagnoses that Dee Dee decided for Gypsy to have, And I talked about quadriplegia, how it was very odd to me that Gypsy would be considered quadriplegic when it was only her legs they were saying that couldn't work, that she couldn't walk, but she had full control of her hands and fingers. We talked about all of that. So you guys want to check out the last two, because I already put out 2 volumes of this iceberg. So there's a lot more, but yeah, we've covered so much. So
where are you going today?
I'm going to Children's Mercy Hospital to see my dentist.
So Gypsy says that mom, with the peg tube, or, the feeding tube for her, mom could put anything that she wanted to put in there, which is so true. I doubt that Gypsy really had food go through there. I think that the mom just really mashed up whatever medication and just put it there. Anytime Gypsy wanted to act like she did not want to be a part of this, mom probably was like, that's all right. I'm going to go ahead and do that when you sleep. And I'm going to keep you, in a sleeping manner. You know what I'm saying? With all the drugs that I have. So you really can't fight back anyway. So this is definitely medical, hurting. I can't use the ABUSE word. It's so annoying, right? But this is definitely what we're talking about here. And it is just, it really is insane to think that somebody could do this to their child. And for so long, just to stay on top of this regimen. I wonder if after a while Dee Dee really believed this girl had these troubles. Like, I really wonder. It's just crazy. By the way, guys, if you like the videos I've been making so far, and you happen to like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit subscribe. We have so much more coming, in this world of borderline personality disorder, Munchausen by proxy, all of it. We pretty much talk about the same kind of thing here, the inconvenient truth, but through a psychological lens, and medical, because my goodness. So is the difference with my videos and like other people's is that I bring my nursing knowledge into it. So because I've seen a lot of Gypsy's meds and a lot of different things, so it helps. And again, I like making these videos. And again, thank you for watching. That's what I should have said first. Thank you for watching. And again, if you do like the videos, please hit the like button, subscribe, and the notification bell. That's enough assignments, right?
For my
And we'll be back.
soon.
Not yet.
If we'd be going to the doctor, she would do all the talking. I'd always have a stuffed animal or a Barbie doll. She'd just tell me, just play with my Barbie doll. If the doctor would come to examine me, just stay in the wheelchair, be calm, play with your doll, and don't move your legs.
I just don't understand how they didn't look at her legs. This is something you're going to hear me say time and time again throughout these videos. You will have to forgive me. But again, I am not even a doctor, right? I'm not even, some of these doctors, they've been doctors for decades. Okay. So I'm a baby, right? Compared to them. But I know what the body of a person who can't use a certain muscle looks like. I know what low muscle tone looks like. Gypsy simply did not have that. How could these people see these strong legs and think that she couldn't walk? It's just weird to me. So she's had gastrointestinal operations, eye procedures, and removal of her salivary glands. Now, see, the eye procedure again, I feel like they're being a little, disingenuous with that one because she did have this strabismus where her eyes weren't aligning properly. So that was actually something she needed. Some say, so I guess they're not going to go into this in the video in this documentary. Some people say that because Gypsy had that eye issue so young and that Dee Dee needed so much help with her, she kind of got addicted to all the attention that she was getting, like, that everybody was worried about, oh my gosh, what's happening to Dee Dee and Gypsy? Like, oh my gosh. And so it made her feel important. And that's why, it escalated into this kind of situation. I don't think that's true though, because, well, we'll see going into the documentary.
I was just as much in the dark as everybody else. The only thing I knew is that I could walk. As for everything else, the leukemia, the epilepsy, I was taking medication that she said was cancer medicine. She would shave my head and say, well, it's going to fall out anyway.
I mean, in this picture though, like, this is insane. So she shaved her head. All right, cool. But like, you have this big girl inside the sink. Like, I mean, this part right here does look very cruel. Like, how did she even fit in there? Like, and they're probably saying Dee Dee probably was like, oh, she's 8 in this picture. Like, Chick probably was like 15. Insane.
Anyway, so let's just keep it nice and neat. I just went on blind faith that a mother knows best.
So the medications Dee Dee gave Gypsy induced many of the symptoms of diseases doctors thought they were treating. I don't think that's true. I really don't. Because like asthma, like I just how did they think that they were treating asthma when you have to do tests? You have to do asthma is like your lungs are, it's not that you have perfect lungs when you have asthma. You can see somebody who kind of has like asthmatic lungs because they look like they've been through something. There might be some opacity or something like that, right? A COPD. That's what's all considered asthma. It's to the point where the girl had a CPAP, a breathing machine. But you have to do tests for these things. So I just don't understand how they just went along with it all. It is baffling to me. Even if the med was causing her to like throw up, it's just not enough to say this was happening. It just isn't. But to go back to Gypsy saying that, she went on blind faith and all she knew was that she could walk, but she believed that her mother knew best and she just went along with it because her mom was telling her that and she was blind like everybody else. Also remember now, if you look in I think it was the first episode I've made, if there's the first volume, was Gypsy saying, I get to talk and tell the truth, even though, I haven't told all truths, not even to my lawyer, right? This is a person who knows how to manipulate. I'm going to be the mean person and say that at a certain point, I don't believe that, like maybe when she's 7, 8, okay. At about 13 years old, I really think that, but Gypsy started to realize like, I'm not really that sick. I'm just going to do this. I kind of like getting free stuff. This is me putting that in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and go, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Right. So I'm just saying, I do think that it wasn't blind the whole time. Let's put it that way.
You're supposed to love and protect your children. How can you do this to your child?
Gypsy Rose Blanchard was as consistently and viciously subjected to in my opinion, Munchausen by proxy as anyone I've come across. Munchausen by proxy involves a caregiver who either feigns or actually induces illness in her children, and her goal is some kind of emotional gratification, looking for sympathy, attention, care, concern that she feels unable to get in any other way. It is a form of child abuse, first and foremost.
The earliest surgery that I can remember probably would be having my feeding tube put in. You have to have it constantly changed, like every 6 months. And that would be pretty painful because they don't put you under anesthesia. They just take you in the emergency room, rip the old one out, and put a new one in.
She's lying. She's absolutely lying. I can tell you she's lying. That is not what they do, because we're talking about inside the intestinal area where the peg tube goes in. To do it through IR, well, I'll tell you this. Let's put it this way: when they're doing it with the balloon, it's not about ripping and pulling out and all that. She's making it seem like they're just pulling things out. No, when you put in a peg tube, you put it in, right? Now, first of all, the opening, they would have definitely had to put her under anesthesia for that. But now she has the opening already there. So they have to switch it out, okay? And when I say anesthesia, excuse me, like a local, something for pain, and something for anxiety mixed together. It really does, it works wonders, and you won't feel a thing. But they go in and they put the peg tube in. I keep saying peg tube. That's what I'm used to using. And then they fill the balloon. Now, sometimes they sew around a site, sew it to your skin. And then they fill a balloon too. There's a balloon that keeps it in place. So in order to get it changed, they would then have to deflate the balloon. They fill it with saline, deflate the balloon, and of course, remove the sutures, take out the old one, yes, and then put in the new one. They'll put some lidocaine around there because, of course, they're going to add sutures to this to the area, to the button itself, or the peg tube site. So if they're going to have sutures there, they have to. Nobody's going to try to sew you up without putting something to numb your skin. So, like, you see, it's just like to listen to her say this, you would think somebody's going in and just ripping it out and just putting in a new one. No, there's a very meticulous manner that this is done in. So that's not true.
I don't know why these procedures were done, or how her mother was able to convince the doctors. Mind-boggling is the only way I can put her ability to manipulate people. Basically, each one of these paper clips is some medical record where Dee Dee essentially lied to the doctor about something. Mentally, Gypsy is behind. She's at the level of a 7-year-old on mother's information. And this is something that you see almost across all of the records, is upon mother's information, upon history by mother. So she's talking to the doctor here, and she's talking about how she has mental and developmental delays, needs assistance. Apparently, while holding her hands over Gypsy's ears so as not to offend, history of mental retardation, 7-year-old level per mom. And so this was the one time where a doctor actually put in the record that Dee Dee's got her hands over Gypsy's ears. So Gypsy can't even hear what mom is telling the doctor. Then we get into the family history of the family.
And then the doctor should have been like, okay, now I'm going to assess her myself. You still should do an assessment to see if this is true. Now, yeah, you do take history from the family, and that's how you write it. And that doctor who wrote that was perfect with putting the ears or whatever, that whole thing. Yeah, you want to document all of that so it doesn't come back to you, but you should still test the person to see, like, ask some questions, build, to stack blocks or whatever, And again, I have to say, it's that eye contact. I just don't know how people really fell for this. I really don't. It's too easy to tell. And I know you're thinking hindsight, but I need you to know that I'm a very cynical person. I don't trust everything. So that's why you have to test it yourself. You can't just go off of hearsay, even if it is a parent. A lot of times that's the truth.
History changed depending on what doctor she was at.
Mhm.
You'll notice here, we don't get a whole lot of,
She's at the cardiologist.
right, she's
so-
at the cardiologist, and
Of
so they
course,
all
the
died of a heart
grandpa died.
attack. Now, this was the first one that jumped out at me. She
Letter
ends up
from-
going to the neurologist, Dr. Flasterstein. And so, very first thing right off the bat, mother is not a good historian, which is interesting because he puts that in bold and underlines it.
One of the things was a big discrepancy was that for a person that has not walked for 9 years, for years, she should have technically almost no muscles in her lower extremities.
There you go. That's what I've been saying. There you go. Because your muscles waste away. They waste away. But hers, they look strong, probably stronger than mine. Like,
But she did have muscles that looked quite normal. And she was able to support her body weight. I remember her standing. So I had a big doubt about the whole thing from the beginning.
He says, since last seen, I managed to talk to one of her previous providers. She specifically remembers Gypsy Rose and mentioned that her previous neurologist clearly reported the fact that Gypsy does not have muscular dystrophy. Analyzing all the facts, and after talking to her previous pediatrician, there's a strong possibility of Munchausen by proxy, with maybe some underlying unknown etiology to explain her symptoms.
and I want you to, let's do a quick, learning lesson here, right? Muscular dystrophy. Okay. Let's break down the word. We know what muscular is. Dystrophy. Trophy. It's basically like growth, right? So you have trophy. This the suffix of the word. This is how, like, when you break down terms and they put medical terms together so you can easily understand what you're dealing with. So the person doesn't have to write muscular, muscles hard of growing syndrome, right? So this means difficulty. If it was it would mean none. Atrophy would be like it's just gone. So muscular dystrophy means that there's a difficulty in growing muscles. And again, Gypsy has pretty good muscle tone. If they are slightly decreased, it's because the mom's forcing her in the wheelchair, so she's not using her legs as much as she should, but not enough to be called muscular dystrophy. And then of course, we have the doctor says straight up, like, there's a strong possibility of Munchausen by proxy with some underlying etiology to explain for her symptoms. Basically, she might have a little bit of something going on, but not enough to be this sick. So what's going on with mom?
Once in a while, we report patients to social services. We do that when we feel that there's a neglect. But a neglect is different what this mom was doing. She wasn't really neglecting her. She was over treating her. We have a system, which is a big integrated system that decided to adopt her and bring her, support her. So many people looking at her, knowing the history, knowing what she was going through, knowing what she went through, I would have been rejected at the spot. So all what I could do is put that in my note. Nobody in the system ever said anything about it. And I didn't see it right to keep going and convincing other people, something is not right here.
Now,
Freaking believable.
But that's a problem. See, what he was supposed to do was still report it. Still reported. Even if you don't have to take on the mantle of like, I need to go see every last person and try to change their mind about this, that, and the third, right? The fact that you wrote it in your note, really the next step is well, if you thought that, then what did you do next? Once you open up those can of, I don't know how he got away with that. Like, if you open up that kind of a can of worms, okay, and you say that, Munchausen by proxy, suspected, that is huge. That's huge. And that's huge even before Gypsy Rose. You feel me? Because what that means is there's a medical manipulation that may be going on a child, and you don't know, you don't know, you're not sure, right? But if it is happening, that's what we'll call it, medical manipulation. Okay, but if it is happening, right, it needs to be stopped immediately. And how far has it gone, right? So the fact again that he wrote it in the note and didn't make, at least I would have made at least one phone call to social services, and then that's on them. And so when somebody would have came and said, what did you do? You wrote it in the note. I contacted social services. And then what happened? I gave the file to them. I have 100 patients I'm seeing. It's not that I don't care. I'm the only one who cared enough to notice this, put it in my note, and make the phone call. Okay. So I did my part. It's the best I can do at the very least, right? He didn't even do that. Wow.
Here's the interesting thing. This is the last record from Mercy here in Springfield until 2015. So this is 2007.
8 years.
What I couldn't figure out was how Dee Dee figured out that Dr. Flasterstein was on to her. But if you look at a lot of these social work notes, Dee Dee's requesting medical records. She would have gotten a copy of this letter.
But I still don't understand why you put your child through this.
Okay, now it's annoying. Like, she's asking silly questions. It's kind of annoying. Okay, we've already been through this. Okay, the lady's sick in the head. There's something wrong with her. Okay, that's not an excuse and it's explanation. Like, come on.
The thing is, I mean,
question.
it just keeps going. I mean,
And it would have kept going because her mama was an insane, compulsive liar.
Dee Dee and I met at the bowling alley one night. Met up again a couple of weeks later, and then we started dating then. She got pregnant.
And I think we'll stop right there, right? The next volume will go really deep into Dee Dee's past, who Dee Dee Blanchard was, okay? Everything about her, and maybe has she done this before? We don't know, but we're going to find out, right? Because for me to let that whole thing play, this thing will turn into another 40 minutes of, because it gets deep. It definitely does get deep. And so this person, though, I will say, should have been stopped long before. Well, Gypsy's here, so I don't want to say that. So we'll pick up the next video from this point and learning about Dee Dee Blanchard. How do you become the president of Munchausen by proxy? And her giving her mantle to Jeanette Jennings, because I'm never going to stop saying that. I'm never going to stop saying that. I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye.